Hey folks, Steve here with a very special, well, I guess this is a content review less than an unboxing because unfortunately I uh, I have unboxed this. I did an unboxing video. I don't think I did a very good job and I deleted it, and we're just going to do a content review because uh, well, that's just the way the cookie's crumbling. So what is this? Well, this is Mothership, the sci-fi horror tabletop role-playing game box set. This is the deluxe set that I received as part of the sort of Kickstarter crowdfunding to get the product published. Now, I received this several weeks ago, and I just have not had a good opportunity to actually do an unboxing, a content review video. And this is a little bit different than my usual war game content. So this is just that little trickle of tabletop role playing game content on the channel, because that is another huge hobby of mine where I spend a lot of time. For whatever reason, I just don't talk about it on the channel very much. Now, talking about what is this package? This is the deluxe set. This runs about $100. You can go to mothershiprpg.com and see the official store. You don't have to get the deluxe set. There is a core set that is about $40 cheaper. It doesn't include everything that will be in this package, slightly different components, but it is cheaper for the core set. And then if you really don't want to invest a lot of money into the product, you can get some of the core rule books for $15 to $20 a pop. When I look at like bundling for savings, I do think the box sets are a good deal compared to trying to buy things separately. Um, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for box sets. What can I say? When it comes to tabletop role playing game stuff, box sets are just really fun. I don't know why it just tickles that part of my brain that says, "Hey, you can play a lot of great RPG fun just in this box, and you can carry the box around rather than several books sloshing around in your backpack." Whatever the case is, and this is what we have here. Now the box is actually quite nice. It's got kind of this foil reflective bits on it with a big M. It's very cool. The core set looks a little bit different, but it still looks pretty darn cool. Now this is on the back, was on the back of the box when it still had the shrink wrap on. You can kind of see some of what's included here. They make reference to their website, ages 13 and up, because it is horror, so there's horror bits, not safe for everyone. Two players, two plus players, yeah, you would think so. 2 plus hours, so kind of giving some like board game commentary here, but really, as you can see, it's an award-winning sci-fi horror role-playing game where you and your crew try to survive in the most inhospitable environment in the universe, outer space, which is true. Folks don't appreciate that. When you're in space, everything is trying to kill you all the time, even in real life. Now, explore unknown star systems, excavate derelict spacecraft, and exterminate alien life forms. Vac suit not included. You can go to learn how to play on their website. There's a whole training package you can go through to learn. I don't think the game system's terribly complicated, but you can see there's a whole batch of stuff that comes in the package, and we get a line item uh, description here, a 44-page core rulebook, player survival guide, the Warden's operation manual, which the warden is the game master. The game master term in this system is the warden. There's a shipbreaker's toolkit all about ship stuff. A 56-page book that is basically a bestiary type of thing. And then you get 4 adventures. You get Another Bug Hunt, which is a 44-page introductory one. Dead Planet, an award-winning adventure about escaping a dying world, which sounds very, very cool. A 52-page award-winning cyberpunk space station adventure, so you get a whole space station and rules about cyberpunk stuff, if that's your speed. And then we have Gradient Descent, which is a 64-page adventure, which is functionally kind of like a mega dungeon with over 300 rooms of exploration. We get a warden screen with a bunch of good stuff, a poster map for ship combat, and a jump liner deck plan. And then we've got some hard stock pawns and some dice and stuff. So a neat little package here. Lots to get started when you figure like 200 pages of adventure, multiple game assistance books to just be playing the game. There's a lot to appreciate. I do want to crack the box open here, and we'll start looking at this. Again, this is not a real unboxing. I've actually already taken a look through here. I've actually punched the tokens. Survive, solve, save. That's inside of the box. First thing, just to show, here's the warden screen. you definitely get, at least to me, a vibe of the xenomorph from Alien, the Alien franchise. Though it's not that. This is more mechanical looking, just a cool kind of set piece to have on the opposite side of your GM screen. This is, a sci-fi horror game, so it is taking inspiration from, Event Horizon, from the Alien franchise, those sorts of things. At times, cosmic horror, in some respects, of just, in the dead cold of space, no one can hear you scream, that kind of action here. Now, as we see this sort of, it folds out. I'm going to show there's a lot of tables here, a lot of tables that cover different things. So, wounds, wound table, medical treatments, survival table of information, tactical considerations, things about death, armor, cover, quick stats, panicking, saves, contractors, pay. So some economical bits. Spaceship stuff, all about if you're going to be dealing with actual space bits, the kinds of ports that are out there, all sorts of good reference tables like a GM screen should have, and it folds up nice and neat. With again a very cool, it sets the tone. If you're setting this up and your players are looking at the opposite side of your GM screen, you get that kind of eerie, dark in space vibe, which is quite cool. I quite like that. Now the core set GM screen has different art. It looks a little bit different. I think this is nice and simple and looks good. Now here's the poster, and not being an expert on this system, to be honest, it's going to be hard for me to really call out everything, but it's basically just to show, like, if you have a ship out there, we've got information on mega damage, what's happening to the ship, you're in contact range, firing range, within detection range, and then just to adjust that, you're beyond range, and there's latency of communication, hailing latency. So definitely, when you think about this, this is certainly, I think the default assumption is a bit harder sci-fi, or just, not as advanced, no holograms like Star Wars or something. And I'll say, part of my interest in the system and in this product is the horror aspect and the challenges that come with that, because I've played sci-fi tabletop RPGs. I run a Stars Without Number campaign. Stars Without Number, Traveler, which is also a well-known one, obviously. They're all good at maybe different things, but they tend to be not specifically calibrated for horror. You can do horror, but it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit harder to make that jive. Traveler's a very skill-based system. Stars Without Number is kind of Traveler's skill system with the basic mechanics of old school D&D, and to me that's kind of like the perfect special concoction that makes it really great to run and play and enjoy. And in my Stars Without Number campaign, it's very much a, kind of amalgamation of the different genres of sci-fi. The players are going to increase in personal power and capabilities, and it's just a great, run through all the sci-fi tropes and things going on. A little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Star Trek. You mix all these different things together. But if I suddenly threw horror into that campaign, it would be tonally very different. But I still like sci-fi horror. So this sci-fi horror RPG, its express reason to exist, is to fit that niche of sci-fi horror, and that's definitely what I'm looking to get out of this. Now, there's a nice little slip sheet in here that references the Mothership companion app that's available both on your Apple phones, your Android phones, where you can get jump started right away. You've got dice rollers. So, in absence of pencils and paper, you could still be playing the game with app enablement. So, just kind of nice that, Tuesday Night Games, which is the publisher, I forgot to mention that, would be willing to, do some app support. So, Tuesday Night with a K Games. So, we have that. Now, I've already punched mine. If you're just opening the box for the first time, there would be the tokens to be punched. This box, which is a special box with the deluxe set, at least, I'm not sure if the core rulebook has this, has neat little compartments. So inside the compartment, I also got, this is just a space box to hold up some space if you want fund it too. I got a neat little patch: to dust you shall return. I'm really not a uh, patch guy, but it's nice to kind of have this, so I'm kind of holding on to it as a keepsake from this whole thing. But the game does come with standees, so nice black and white pictures of characters, maybe NPCs, a couple of ships, and some gnarly monsters. And these are nice. There are the standee platforms in here. I'll show those in a second. But you have a nice kind of starting grab bag of things if you want to use them. I'm not sure. It depends on if you like theater of the mind or not, or just having something to represent your characters is nice. So this is a nice little add-on. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space. And there's some other sort of administrative type of tokens you can use for different purposes that are also in that sheet. Not a huge deal, a nice little ad. I'm not sure how much I'll use it, but they do fit right nicely in this little containment. A compartment. There's a other side compartment here where there is the baggie of the standees to put those tokens in, and then the dice that come with the game, which is broadly a D100 system with some D20 interactivity, and my separator came undone there a little bit. This is all kind of cardboard cardstock. You want to be careful with it, but it is nice because it fits together real simply there. Okay, so those are like the side things. The rest of this are the actual books that come with the game. So first of all, the main core rule books are black and white, which they didn't have to do that, and you'll see why with some of the other books here. But it is nice. It does set a tone, black and white. You can do a lot with the shading and the darkness of space, which is kind of cool. The rules are generally in a two-column format, and let me tell you, the art is really great. So you can start to see some of these end pages talking about weapons, damage, armor, easy reference things, how to make your character, and then you get into this really gnarly, cool-looking art. And this is going to be in just about every book, some of which I think there's one or two pages in one of the adventures where, like, I don't know, it's not really graphic, but you could be like, oh, maybe that's not safe for work. The different loadouts, so you can get loadouts for the characters for quick generation. There's that guy looks like one of those engineers from Prometheus with his flight gear on. Uh, Obvious inspirations throughout. Nice just portrayal of the weapons. So you kind of have a sense of like, what is this gun that I bought or that I'm using? Talking about skills and skill training, how combat works, range and distance. I particularly like this picture because it's talking about extreme range, long range, close range, all tied to the art, and the art just looks gnarly and cool, which I really appreciate. The art truly is just there's no bad art that I can see. It's all very well. That's a little rough. Sorry, bud. Medical care. There's an example of play, like you would see in many books, just the conversations between the warden, the game master, and the players, and different kinds of ports that you could arrive at. That, again, this is a space game, so there's an idea that you may have a ship that you're traveling in, you're performing contracts or jobs. Here's how to get some contractors. These are like hirelings, and so on. And it packs a lot into the 40 some pages, but the system is not terribly complicated. It mostly has to do with your skills, your capabilities. It's a D100 system. You're using D100's percentile for most things except for panic, and that's where the horror aspect comes in. I'm not an expert on the system, so just to hit things at a very high level, there will be things that increase your stress, and then that's what the D20 is for. You potentially panic and things start to happen to you. So it's not just a game where you're moving around and adventuring like maybe a conventional D&D campaign, but you are trying to succeed at your goal. You're squishy. You're gonna have stress. You're gonna panic. You're gonna have bad things happen to you. And this is actually considered the first edition of this game. There was a sort of zero edition, the very first iteration, like an alpha of the game, where in that alpha game you did level up, and it was maybe a little bit more like a standard sort of D&D tabletop role-playing game where you increased in strength by leveling up and getting XP. Well, in this first edition, they actually changed that. And generally speaking, characters are squishier. They are more likely to maybe die, and their personal progression is not as dramatic. And in fact, you don't even have levels in Mothership. So I think that's a huge contributor to the sort of horror aspect of this game, that you are not going to expect to become a superhero. You're not going to expect to become a warrior of annihilation. You are, however long you play your character, you're always going to be a little bit squishy. You're always going to be in danger. You're always going to be dealing with the horror of space, which I think is a good thing. This is the Warden's Operation Manual, your sort of game master's guide. Similarly, a lot of talking about preparing uh, your first session, starting your scenario, how to set up a scenario, getting the tone of horror, find the horror, give something an objective, um, all these things, making it tie together, how the game works, so on and so forth. And what's really good is it talks about the different types of activities that can be going on, social encounters, violent encounters. Starts getting into the space bit, which again, just awesome art, just very, very, very cool. What kind of campaign? A space trucker campaign is very different than maybe a Dogs of War campaign. So you're picking your flavor and how things are dressed. How do you set up the space area of space that the campaign's going to begin in? There's actually a good picture in here. I'm not sure if I will be able to find it, of drawing, like a good way of drawing out your area of play. And here it is, where it's functionally a point crawl. You're not trying to draw a map that is not always anyway, like a actual deck plan, every 5 foot piece of area detailed, but you can kind of do it at a really high level and just show how areas connect to each other. I found that very effective in my own Stars Without Number campaign, of doing up locations or space stations, because it can be a lot of work to try to map everything. And if you're especially doing combat with theater of the mind, like I tend to, um, it helps just to have the description of an area and its relationship to other places. Um, there's guidance in here about factions and adjusting the campaign and campaign economics, which I think is interesting. So there's a lot in here to support the kind of play that Mothership wants you to be playing. And so, just as a brief flip through, this is a nice package here. And these are digest sized books, so they're not big, heavy things. You can be picking this up and perusing and reading bits and pieces very quickly to get through the content. We have the ship book. So this is the Shipbreaker's Toolkit. Now, again, depending on the type of campaign you're running, it can be sci-fi horror, it can be horror in space. Your players may not be in charge of ships very often, but it does help to have a lot of context around what ships are capable of doing. If they do get control of a ship, what can it do? What I like here is, like, this is a Merida brand drop ship, and it's showing this Sawtooth APC that loads up in the back of the dropship. And this information, these layouts, these ships, and you can see that there are layouts and kind of breakouts of these things, can be used by just about any sci-fi RPG. And so you'll have, this is actually the ship. I guess I didn't show this, the deck plan on the opposite side of the poster map. I'll show that before we wrap. But you can see there's a lot in here to make use of, rough diagrams of what, how are these ships laid out in case they're going to be the site of an adventure. How does space travel work? Which, again, this is going to be based on, the default assumption of the Mothership system. But a lot in here are just all about the ship stuff. So if you start to lean into ship maintenance and what kinds of ships or different types of scenarios that play out with the ships, you'll lean into this, but you may not have to. It's going to be up to your campaign. And then we have the unconfirmed contact reports. This is sort of like a bestiary, and there's a bunch of crazy stuff in here. It's really awesome. I mean, just like within the first couple pages, you have angels. What are we? What's going on? What is that? This is like true Old Testament angel stuff here, guys. And what's interesting in this book, and I'm just going to try to find um, an example. There's a really good one here. The omnivore, the actual stat block, the mechanical bits of this enemy is a single line up here. There's a C value. I'm not exactly sure what that is. There's the weapons, ritual claws that do 3d10 damage, or a plasma rifle that does 2d100 damage, some additional things, armor value, wounds. And the rest of the page is artwork and flavor lore. And in particular, like this one has sort of diegetic quotes around describing this creature, someone running into them. Um, don't fight, fighting only pisses it off. Really flavorful things. So for each one of these, right, there's a lot in here, a lot of neat stuff. There's not the game's not terribly complicated mechanically, but what you get into is wanting and needing to really absorb, like, what is the, what on earth is that? Wanting to read into that and understand what this creature is, and then finding its place in your adventure or your campaign. So just very flavorful, very cool, and you can start to see where it's the addition of color starts to eke in some of these pages now, and the use of color I feel is very good. They do a good job. These Tuesday night game direct things have a really good alignment of like color differentiation. Now, what else is in here? Just very quickly to show. I'm going to set these aside. These are the 4 adventures that come in the deluxe. I also received in the box this conversion kit. So if you have looked at Mothership in the past, you have some of the original alpha version stuff. There is a conversion kit here, how to convert characters and what's changed. So they have a whole thing about, you know, uh, we removed experience points and character levels. This better reflects the idea that characters in Mothership are ordinary people under extraordinary pressure, and there are ways that you gain some strength, but the point is, um, uh, it's a different way to advance as a character, and so there's a lot of stuff in here for that. It's nice. If I find some old alpha adventures or something, I will use a conversion chart or the conversion book. Now these are the 4 adventures, and they are all very nice digest size books. Another bug hunt is the introductory adventure, and then we have these other 3. Now, I don't know that I'm going to go into super big depth on all 4 of these. I mean, they're their own products to get, but this another bug hunt. Just to see it, you see the splash of color in the differentiation. This is like an NPC chart, and you get into, here's a timeline of events, what's going on, and again, these really the carcinids. My goodness, you see this really nice mesh of information that's still plainly able to be consumed and read, but just worked in. And the independent RPG scene does this a lot, making the content really pop within the structure of the book. And you can see, there's layouts, there's description, and what I really, really like is you can say, here is the rough layout in the commissary, rather than having to read like 3 or 4 paragraphs of content. It's a ransacked mess hall in a rec room, flickering lights. The place is a mess. That's all I need to really say. I don't need a whole lot more than that. And then we can see there's these bulleted points that matter, things that are going to be worth investigating, things that are worth looking a bit deeper into. And this is so much more useful in play than, say, a really big hardback adventure module where I have to read several paragraphs and kind of glean the important bits myself. They're making the important bits here really easily read at the table, and because the book's small enough, I can hold this in one hand, I can be gesturing with the other and articulating what's going on in the game space. So this is a very nicely laid out thing in terms of an adventure. There's layouts of rooms at kind of a really high level, and just kind of the way that this all goes out. And this is the introductory adventure, Dead Planet, about trying to escape a dying world. There's layouts here. There's a lot of tables and information in here. Again, a different color palette used in this adventure. Some more red and black and white. Lots of neat little things to run through and play. Um, a Pound of Flesh, I actually got this in the alpha version. I had purchased this. And by the way, any of these adventures could be used in Traveler. You could use them in Stars Without Number. You could find ways to leverage the content. If you're a flexible DM, you can figure this stuff out. But A Pound of Flesh uh, is, comes with a space station, which you could make a central hub of your campaign world. There's a lot of gritty, space characters involved here, a lot of cyber stuff or cyberpunk actions. You could play that up or play that down as you want. There's different segments of the station, different things, an adventure within the station, which is a nice thing to add on. So you have a plethora of different adventuring options, right? You have your intro adventure, you have this sort of, more multifaceted adventure about escaping someplace. You've got a cool hub world with its own sort of adventure scheme there. And then you have this gradient descent, which is, and there's a lot of stuff there. It's like a mega dungeon, kind of. There's a lot of different places in here, all horrific nasties, but rooms upon rooms, cycles upon cycles. Get into your system shock action here a little bit, but gradient descent. And there's a bunch of third-party stuff out there for this. I can't speak to the quality. I'm told, these 4 adventures are all very good, at least that I can tell. And so as I'm going to start to piece this all back together here in the box. This deluxe package has a lot in it. It is certainly, to me, worth the value. And before I wrap this up, just to show, here's that cool deck plan poster. So this is on the opposite side of that space chart. So you can see this is for a jump liner. It's a layout of the rooms and meal costs and how many escape pods it has, how many cryopods it has. So a nice kind of in-depth look at a particular type of ship, which could be useful because maybe you set an adventure here and you're exploring a rundown one, or you reuse the same deck plan for a Contessa model that is still up and running, and maybe it's your party ship or their passengers on board the ship when something goes horribly, horribly wrong. That sort of stuff. All very cool. I'm pretty happy with the package as what I got in for the Kickstarter for. I'm pretty impressed with the component quality. Everything's nice. It's not, you want to be delicate with the poster. It probably won't last forever if you don't treat it nicely. But for the, I assume the Kickstarter price, which was a bit cheaper than MSRP. But if you're talking about $100 and you're going to get, each one of those adventure modules is like $20 on its own. You figure you get 4 of those, you get all the other core rulebooks, you get all these other things. I think the price is right for this as a, you think about lots and lots of hours of tabletop role-playing game fun in a sci-fi horror tone. And that's really, I definitely see myself playing this soon, at some point, maybe for Halloween. Like for Halloween, I'll take a break from my usual sci-fi, space hijinks and say, hey, let's do some sci-fi horror and play maybe that introductory adventure. That Warden's Guide will enable you to make your own adventures. So you've got in this whole package, lots of adventures, a lot of pre-written stuff, the ability to create your own and hit that nice tone that is specific to sci-fi horror, which is just super cool, very neat. And I can't wait to dig in. I just want to look through the books and look at all that art. I think the art's fantastic. So lots to look at here. If you look at the core set, that's $60. You get that another bug hunt adventure. You get the introductory adventure, and then you just get the core stuff. And I think maybe that's it. You can check that out. But I do like the deluxe. I'm glad I got the deluxe. There's a lot of cool bits here to use. Definitely want to get this to the table at some point, even though, hey, I have my standard sci-fi system in Stars Without Number. I think this is a great bit for horror specifically. Want to get that to the table. Maybe someday I'll do some reporting on it when I do. But that's it, folks. That's the content overview of the Mothership RPG Deluxe Set from Tuesday Night Games. Hope this was informative. Hope it sparked some interest in the RPG itself. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Take care and keep on gaming, however gaming that may be. See you later.